Welcome to Women in B2B Marketing, a show where CMOs, VPs of marketing, and all strong women leaders in B2B discuss their top tactics, strategies, and tips for building high-performing teams, leveraging trends, and ultimately rocking their marketing careers. Made by and for women, insightful for all. I'm your host and 15-year B2B marketer, Jane Serra. Let's dive in. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Women in B2B Marketing. I have with us somebody who I met through Matcha Gallon Creators. If you have not connected with anybody there, Matcha has this amazing program where they match women in marketing, women in B2B, women in tech, just women entrepreneurs, all of the above, to one another, just so we can connect and help each other in different ways. So check out Matcha and Melissa Moody, who's behind that, and just look into Gallon Creators, ask how you can get signed up, because I met the wonderful Marion Siboni, and I'm not going to say her name 100% properly, but I'm attempting, but it's a beautiful French name, right?
Yes, absolutely. I'm French.
Okay. Yes. And when I first met Marion, she gave me a ton of tips when I was going to France, to Paris for B2B Rock. So thank you so much for that. But she is founder and CEO of La Creme de la Stem. So I'm very excited for her to tell us all about that. And she has at least 10 years, I think more like 12 years in tech across all different sectors and areas of tech. So we will learn all about her journey today and what she's doing for women founders and entrepreneurs in STEM. So welcome to the show, Marion. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm so glad to be here.
Yay, thank you. I loved meeting you and hearing what you're doing. And I love La Creme de la Stem, the idea behind it. So before we jump into what that is and what you're building, because it's amazing, how did you get into your position today, and what brought you into the world of tech and B2B?
Yeah, so I went through a business school, and my journey into tech began like unexpectedly. I had this childhood passion for reading, and my dream job when I was much, much younger would be one that surrounds me with books. So while preparing my business school oral exams and reflecting on this desire, I came across an essay written by the National Library of France president, Bruno Racine, something called Google and the New World. And at the time, it was back in 2014, he was exploring the impact of digital transformation in the publishing industry. That was my first exposure to the tech world. And I was like blown away by how many opportunities were arising in the industry that I would never thought would be impacted by tech. So that was like a revelation that kind of set up the course for my career. So then when came the time to look for an internship, I knew I wanted to go into the digital world and exploring deeper all the opportunities that the tech has to offer.
So cool. And what areas of tech and have you been in? Because I know on LinkedIn, like your titles, you've been in different areas. It's really cool. So walk us through that journey and what brought you into being a founder.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started with internships. My very first internship was in a startup that was using digital marketing. I also worked for eBay as an intern. So I went very quickly into the big tech companies.
Yeah.
And then my full-time career started with Cisco. I went through a graduate program with Cisco. So I was an account manager on mid-market and then enterprise segments. So I went there for 3.5 years. It was very heavy, very tech IT heavy. I covered a lot of different technologies like cybersecurity, data center, collaboration tools, all those fun stuff. But I wanted to get a little bit more specialized. So then I decided to join an AI startup. That was back in 2019, when AI was not as trendy as it is nowadays. I worked there for 2.5 years. I transitioned from a sales role to a partnership role. And I took over the partnership at the time with Microsoft that scaled from 2 to 24 countries. I worked with Japan, Australia, UK, the US, Brazil, like all those different countries. That's such an exciting job. And I won 2 Microsoft Partner of the Year award, thanks to the impact that I had.
Oh, cool.
Thanks. Yeah. And then I decided to explore another aspect of partnership and work with more service providers. So I joined MongoDB as a senior partner manager. I was collaborating with the sales team, and I was working with Google, Amazon, Microsoft, Capgemini, Accenture, boutique system integrators, like a lot of different aspects of the job. Again, very exciting position. I stayed there for a year, and then I moved to the US and I started a new chapter of my career. I had to reinvent myself. I had to reinvent my career, explore the tech trends that were not existing in Paris at the time, and explore what New York has to offer. I built a community from scratch for global nonprofits, and I scaled it from 0 to 4,000 women in just a year.
Wow.
It was really exciting. And I was hosting in-person panels to demystify hot tech topic. So I did something around the future of work and AI with Microsoft. I did an event around blockchain with AWS, and that helped me to really build a really strong network here in New York, but most generally in the US. I also landed a role as director of sales and partnership at Techstars, the world's largest pre-seed investor. That got me deep into the VC startup ecosystem.
Yeah.
And I quit my job end of April, decided to start my own company. So since early June 2024, I'm the founder and CEO of La Creme de la STEM, as you mentioned at the beginning of the podcast. So my goal is to support early stage female founders in tech and science.
Yeah. So tell us more about that. Now, what sparked your reason? Why did you quit your job and start La Creme de la STEM? Was it one moment that just triggered this for you, or did you notice something? What led to this?
Yeah. So funny thing is, I always said I will never be an entrepreneur. I could not see myself doing that. Being surrounded by entrepreneurs at Techstars and just more generally being in the US, the mindset around entrepreneurship is just so different. France is a very risk-averse country. It's not really in our DNA, in our mindset to take risk and try and fail and try again and so on. So being in a completely different country, surrounded by people that are every day taking risk, starting new projects, starting companies, and just getting out there and trying it, it's very exciting. I had this idea of having my own community because I started to build really my personal brand here. And I noticed that people didn't really care if I was working for Techstars or volunteering for this nonprofit. They just wanted to work with me. So I started to come up with a name. So I had the name and I had the logo. They can sell my t-shirts.
Love it.
And then early June, I was like, maybe I should try and see what happens if I just do that full time, because I have this passion for supporting women in tech, and I have all this expertise of working for companies of various sizes in business development. So I'm very good at hunting and starting anything and building. I'm really a builder. Yeah, and I also understood this capacity that I had to develop a network where I'm just one text away from finding the answers I need. I was like, I'm surrounded by all those amazing individuals, so I should find a way to work with them and serve a community of women in tech. And then during New York Tech Week, this is when I decided to kick things off. And I use New York Tech Week as a giant brainstorm environment where I would meet people, pitch different ideas, see what sticks, what did not. And then after a week of attending networking events nonstop, getting exposed to so many different individuals at a higher level, because constant from breakfast to dinner, that really helped me shape what I'm building right now, which is the support system to help female founders. So I'm working with 3 different types of people. I'm working with VCs. So I have more than 120 VCs in my network now. So I'm going to send deal flow to those VCs so they can assess those companies, eventually invest in the companies that are going to be part of my community. They're going to come to the platform, do office hours, PGAC review sessions. My goal is really to create a safe space for those female founders. What I've seen over the past few years is that there's a lot of myth around entrepreneurship, and there is a lot of rules around fundraising. But if you don't know those rules, and if no one told you about it, it's very difficult to understand and navigate. So I want to have this safe space where female founders can talk to a VC as they are talking to a friend without having the pressure of, oh my gosh, I'm pitching. No, you're just asking questions and you're just asking for a little bit of guidance rather than pitching your product in, which is like a completely different conversation. So that's one pillar. The second pillar is working with exited entrepreneurs that did an exit, whether it's successful or unsuccessful. So my goal is to have them give actionable advice. We always hear about the same type of people in the media. We hear about Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, or you hear from founders that are currently building the second, third, fourth company, and they're using media and they're using the previous exits to build a story. And they're absolutely right to do so. It's amazing. But I want to know what happened. I want to know what happened between the moment you decided to start the company and the moment you actually exited. What are the lessons learned? What are the tools that you use? What are the contacts that were really useful for you? Like how did it happen? How do you reflect on those years of building something and then share that knowledge with female founders? So that's my second pillar. And then the third pillar is working with corporate partners that for perks and discounts on all the different aspects of the business that entrepreneurs don't necessarily want to think about: legal, accounting, tax, marketing, go-to-market. There's like a lot of aspects of the business that every single aspect of the business has to be covered by an entrepreneur. So having the right partners to do that can, again, give you the right tools to use so you don't spend hours and days and long calls to try to figure out what is the best tool. That's really what I want to bring. And also have those service provider supporting with the area of expertise, like on HR, for example. I'm currently discussing with a service provider that's providing a HR software tool. And they have the tool, but they also have the expertise on how do you hire a team? When is the right moment? And all the multiple questions that come when you have this kind of situations.
Yeah, this is amazing. I'm curious, what made you focus in on women and women in STEM for founders? I think most of us who listen to this show, I imagine we know the sad stats that are like the low percentage of women founders who get VC funding. But I'm curious if there's something more to that, if you found your community and you wanted to support, or something you saw lacking from your days with VCs and building communities. What sparked this need?
Yeah, so the number you're talking about, female founders received 2% of venture capital funding in 2022, according to PitchBook. It's a number that hasn't changed in the past 10 years. I've been in tech for more than a decade now, and when I started my job, I was very naive. I thought that equality at work was something that my grandmother had to deal with. I did not realize that I would have to face sexist remarks and have to justify why I'm here after going through all those interviews, having all those great internships. I also had experience prior starting my full-time job at Cisco, I was selected by Google to go on a bootcamp. I was selected by IBM to go on a 3-day bootcamp as well in Amsterdam. And I was part of the winning team. So I had a really strong resume when I started my career. And I was like, I don't understand why I have to justify why I'm here. Just doesn't make sense. And there were no community in France at the time that was accessible for getting started. There was nothing existing. It took me 6 or 7 years to find a community for women in tech. And I thought it was a bummer, because this is when you start that you need help. Because when you grow, then you grow your network, and then it's easier. Even if you need help constantly throughout your entire career, I think that the early stage of a career are very important. And that's also something I looked at when I was at Techstars, being surrounded by pre-seed, seed founders that are looking for help, and having Techstars telling them sometimes we cannot get you in. First of all, it's a very selective program. Only 4% of applicants get into a Techstars program. Wow. So I'm like, what happens to the other 96%? Who is helping them? There were so many things happening around entrepreneurship, and so many, unfortunately, scams as well, with people that are inventing themselves experts in their entrepreneur industry, and they will sell you something. And I can understand why founders would, sometimes you're really desperate. You want this to work. So you want to believe when someone tells you that they have this magical key that is going to solve everything. We're also like surrounded by knowledge through social media and constant, like it's a flow of knowledge is like constant, and you just of information, I should say. And then it's hard to know which information is right and what is like the right amount of knowledge that you should have or not. So that's why building this support system, where I consider myself an expert in the entrepreneurship industry, but I'm not an expert on every single aspect. I'm an expert on some aspects, but I can vet people and I can bring experts to the community that will share what they know. So experts, as I mentioned, on the HR side, experts, entrepreneurs that did exit. I meet a lot of great people all the time that are willing to share, men and women, because this is also something I'm doing through my communities, having men and women being part of the support system. I have a friend that's the go-to-market expert, and he went from France to the US and he sold like the largest cybersecurity deal in history. And he doesn't have a platform. Yeah, it is very smart, and is one of my good friends. So I'm so glad to count these kind of people in my network. And he doesn't have a platform where he can share his knowledge. Building that as well is also like a way to, it goes both ways. For him, it's a way to share his knowledge, but also like build public speaking skills and supporting and like giving back to the community in general. And for female founders, it's a good way for them to access someone that has an incredible go-to-market expertise that's worked for 10 years or more in the B2B SaaS industry and have all those nuggets of knowledge that you can then reuse easily.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're one of your many facets that you bring to this is you're a professional connector. You like find people that need certain things and plug them in where they can add value and mutually benefit from each other. I love that. Which goes into a big theme here is the power of community, right? And how I talk about this all the time here. Sorry if this is repetitive, but like your network is your net worth is a common phrase that everybody knows that. And it's so true. I'm seeing that so much more over time. So that's something that you're fostering and creating in this community. What else are the benefits? Like how important is community, especially as a new founder or as a woman founder specifically? Can you talk us through what you think the value of community is here?
Yeah, absolutely. I think community can cover like a lot of different aspects. And you can be part of different communities that will bring you something different. So, for example, I'm part of a community called Fabric, and it's a third space where a lot of community builders gather, and it's a physical space. So for me, it's a good way to be surrounded by like-minded individuals that are also building community, not necessarily in the entrepreneur industry. There are community builders that are covering communities for chief of staff or for wellness, or that are just exploring their next step. But
a community of community builders. I love it. So meta.
yeah. But they're all driven by this need and they're all driven by the willingness to do good and to give before they get, which is very nice because the conversation we're having are never transactional. It's never, I give you this and I expect you to give me that. It's always like, how can I help you? How can I help? Can I connect you to this person? Oh, are you looking for a job? Let me contact my friend that works in HR and connect you guys. Or it's just so nice to be surrounded by that mindset and individuals. I really believe in the power of community. Obviously, this is why I'm building also this community. It's all about creating a safe space and being surrounded by like-minded individuals that share the same values, where you don't have any thoughts or any fear to share how you're feeling. It's also about being vulnerable and also being able to say, like, I don't understand this. Can you just walk me through it and explain? Because this is very confusing for me. So having that kind of a safe environment, whether it's virtual or in person, is so necessary. Again, specifically in a world where we are constantly flooded with different types of information, and being able to access people that you can trust that will share with you what they think without being transactional, without thinking about the interest first, but just putting like the collective interest first is so important.
Yeah. I love that. Fostering like a big support system.
Yes.
In the past few years of views, as you've worked with Techstars and then as you're building La Creme de la STEM, have you seen, or what are the struggles that you've seen, especially female founders and early stage? What are some of the biggest struggles that you see them facing right now?
So funding is definitely one of the
Money.
biggest ones.
Always,
it always comes down to money. But I think that female founders and founders in general should also focus on building a product that makes sense, that customers want, and constantly seek for user feedback. That's something I've seen a lot happening. A lot of founders are building this really exciting product and they spend 6 months thinking about it and building all of that. And then when I ask them like, okay, so who are your potential customers and who's going to buy your product? And did you talk to them? Are you sure that's what they want? And they're like, oh, yeah, that's what they want. I was like, yeah, but how many customers did you talk to?
Assumptions.
Yeah. And they're like, I know people need that. I was like, you need to test, like you need to ask potential customers, like you need to get feedback. You need to put those surveys out there and have people figure it up. Like for my own company, I'm building something that I hope makes sense, but I talked to 120 VCs. I talked to hundreds of funders. I have a survey that I send over and I collected feedback from 110 female funders so far. And I keep sending that feedback over every time I meet a female funder because I want to have those KPIs. I want to make sure that even if I'm having a good conversation with those female funders, even if they share something during a call, which is also very important to do, is having both, having those live conversations, but also have a survey where they can take the time, the interactions that you have sometimes in person or through a Zoom call can be very different from sharing feedback in writing. So having this holistic view to find product market fit is very important, and finding product market fit will only come through iteration. So achieving constant and consistent milestones is very key.
I think that's a huge problem at all companies, is not talking to our audience enough and just making assumptions. Like product marketing 101, talk to your customers, validate the solution that you're coming up with or a new feature, etc. So I love that you're doing that yourself and leading by example in that way for your community, right? And always, it doesn't end, right? You gather this information to kick off, and then you keep gathering it because things change, people evolve, your ICP evolves, your mission evolves. So just continuously checking the audience. Is there a way that you suggest founders and businesses start here, or anywhere to start gathering this information? I have a hunch that you gathering information here, people are probably super excited to participate and share information because it's helping people. But I wonder for any brands that are less of this community feel, where they are eventually going to be selling a product, how can they gather insight from their ICP as they're just starting out?
I think cold outreach is one way, through social media, whether it's Twitter, LinkedIn, of course, or even like Instagram or TikTok, like depending the type of audience you're reaching out. Just like cold outreaching people. That's what I've been doing for the past decade in business development. I have a very short message that is like very concise and being very clear on your expectations. That's my recommendation. And then talk to your friends, talk to your family, and ask for introductions. Every time you talk to someone that is willing to share feedback, okay, do you know someone else that could be interested by what I'm building? Would you be open to do an introduction for me? Or what events are you attending where I could find this type of people? Or just what conference are you attending? Just like literally asking questions directly to prospects is what works. And when you're getting started, you have this excuse of, oh, I'm super early. And that's something I used a lot when I was starting my new job, I would use the first 3 months to be like, oh, I'm really new in that role. So part of me I'm asking like dumb questions, but I would love to know. And then I would play the naive card, and people are willing to help. Most people are willing to help when you're getting started, and just being like super candid about it and putting into context and be like, hey, look, I'm getting started. Here's what I'm doing. Here's my vision. I'm just trying to get feedback for now. I don't have anything to sell. I'm just looking for 5 minutes of your time. So yeah, I think this is a lot of ways just to keep going.
Yes. And I can also say for the marketers listening to this conversation, this advice also translates to us, because when I first started at Daxtra, I did the same exact thing to learn about the audience. I cold outreached on LinkedIn to my ICP to get a refresher, because I've been in the recruitment tech and HR tech space before, but it's been 10 years. So I need a refresher. So I cold outreach, and I was like, hey, I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm new. I just started. I just want to pick your brain, learn about my audience. And you'd be surprised how many people are just, you're showing your cards and they're willing to help. Like, we are, hopefully most of us are kind humans at the end of the day and want to help each other. And when you help someone, it makes you feel good, right? So spreading those endorphins, helping people where you can. So love this advice of just reaching out and getting out of your own way. I'm seeing a lot of women in marketing, people in marketing in general, leaving the field and either going fractional or starting their own consulting business, or going in a totally different direction and building a new business, building tech, building SaaS, and becoming an entrepreneur. So I love that we're able to have this conversation today and get in front of, if any listeners are contemplating that, first of all, connect with Marion and see what advice she has, and see if it's something you want to dabble with and learn more about. And I also, while we have the opportunity, if you could share from your time so far and what you've seen with different founders and at Techstars, et cetera, what's one piece of advice you'd give to anybody just starting out as an entrepreneur, and one warning, like one lesson learned of what not to do as they start this journey?
So one thing I just mentioned is like talking to customers, but most importantly, having milestones and setting up milestones to have a vision.
Good one.
Yeah. And it can be over a business plan, but it doesn't have to be that complicated. I have a lot of milestones for my company. One is that I want to have my website up and ready by half November, by saying that I'm committing myself to have the website.
Good luck. You'll do it. You'll do it.
Yeah, I just hired a web designer, so she's going to do the work for me. I do have a website. I want to have a better website that really showcase what I'm doing, presents all the articles I've been to, who I am, who is part of my advisory team, and so on. So that's one of my milestones. The other milestone I have is to have 50 female founders to start a community in January that understand the power of community. They understand the discussion that we're having. So that's another milestone I have. So from that, I'm working backwards and thinking about everything I need to put in place to make sure that the community is like up and ready for January, but also that I have those female founders. So having those big milestones really helps to shape a vision. And then it's very good for VCs to hear what your vision is. And also having, usually the question of a lot of people have is, how I can help you? How can I help you? And because I have those two milestones as an example, I can be like, oh, I'm looking for a web designer. Can you recommend someone? I'm looking to find the right platform to host my community. What platform are you recommending? So also thinking about those sub questions that come after you define a milestone so that people can really help you. Because people that come to you with just, hey, I want to grab coffee, it's not helpful because I don't know what they want to talk about. Or people that are like, hey, I want to fundraise. What advice do you have for me? I'm like, wow, this is
where
I
to
can
begin.
Consult for you. Or my answer can be like a 3-minute answer, or it can be like an hour, or I can also do a consulting. I'm not a consultant, so that's not my job. So having just something, a very clear ask is very important. So
that's such good advice, because so you're reminding me, I think a year or two ago, I was on a group call. I'm part of a community called Elevate that's for women of all walks of life, but it just connects women with other women. And there was a call that we were on, like a squad, which is like a huddle, getting a smaller group together for a weekly call. And this one woman came on and she was like, okay, what's everybody's ask? And I was like, what do you mean? And she should come to every call, every group, every community meeting of any type with an ask and an offer. So like a clear thing that you need from people. So if they ask, oh, how can I help you? You have an answer or like something that you're looking for, and also what you can offer them in return. And this is mirroring that. It's such a good reminder because I'm still not good at that. I don't like if someone asks, how can I help you? I'm like, I just be you. Like I just freeze and I'm like, I don't know I have a million things everyone can help me with. But when you ask that openly, I don't know. So if you go to any kind of, you're building your community and your network and your audience, have a clear ask of them and something that you can offer in return.
Yeah. And also ask, how can I help you? Because it's important. That will help build a network and expand it, to also position yourself as a person that has resources, because we all have something to share, whether it's advice, like I'm French and I can give advice on like what I gave you. Oh, you should stay in that district.
Yes, I changed my hotel thanks to you. I changed my hotel and I ended up in a beautiful area. So thank you so much for your advice. Super helpful.
Yeah, that's also what I want to show. Like, it doesn't have to be purely professional. It doesn't have to be like, hey, can I be on your podcast? Or it can be like a lot of different things. And that's what helps me connect with a lot of different people, because I don't always talk about what I'm doing. I don't always talk about, please help me, connect me to female founders. Most of the time I talk about completely different topics.
That's a secondary tip even. That's a secondary second tip, because we get so caught up in, okay, this is a work environment, let's keep it to work. But the lines have blurred so much, especially like LinkedIn, for instance, these days. And we're just connecting with other people, building relationships. And you build relationships with people that are of value when you're not just focused on work and just marketing or just you're building your company, but you're humans. Like, what are the other, shed a little bit of light on who you are outside of this piece of you. Because at the end of the day, our work is just one piece of us as humans.
Yeah. And people buy from people. At some point, when you have different providers or different communities you want to join, and they're pretty similar. It's going to be, do I just want to hang out with that person more? I'm currently looking for a bank and they're all very similar. So at the end of the day, I know I'm going to make my decision based on who's being nice to me and available and responsive. I also want to have like nice conversation.
Exactly.
For professional reasons.
It is funny how we still very much buy based on vibes. Right? Like, it's still at the end of the day. Yes. You can have all the charts and comparisons that you want, but at the end of the day, if I like you, I'm going to buy from you. So
Exactly.
And what is one warning or lesson learned that you've seen, either from yourself firsthand or through other founders?
A warning is, make sure you understand what the entrepreneurship journey is about. It's lots of ups and downs. It's not for everyone. Just like the corporate world is not for everyone, right? So I think just being really aware of what you're going to put yourself into, having no safety nets, having to deal with a lot of paperwork, having to figure out what you're doing on your own, building a team, picking the right service providers. So there's like a lot that goes into the entrepreneurship journey. And I think there's still this myth that it's easy to talk to a VC and all I need is someone that is going to write me a check of 2 million. It's not as easy. Spoiler alert, it's not that easy. It takes a lot of grit. It takes a vision, and it takes a lot of personal work, personal involvement to put into a company. Make sure that you understand what it's about before jumping in. And it can be like starting slowly, having a side hustle or working on it just the weekends, just at night. I think that's a good way. You don't have to move fast. I think there is also this belief that we live in a world where everything is like moving super fast. but most overnight successes happen over 10 years. So be careful of the shiny stories that you hear in the media. And make sure you assess what it means for you on all aspects of your life before jumping right into it. Just be aware of that.
It's interesting because you mentioned the French being risk averse, right?
Yeah.
I very much feel that way too. And I feel like in the US, we were, at least my generation, brought up in our professional life on Shark Tank. And I have the clear memory, like an imprint on my memory, that they told me, and I believed this, I bought into the hype, that anybody that came in Shark Tank and pitched and was like, oh, I do this on the side, I'm a teacher full time, they were like, oh no, you're not committed, like you didn't give up your career and go all in on this, so I'm out. And I'm like, so I have it imprinted that in order to start a business, you have to go all in from the get-go, quit your job and live off ramen noodles. And it's just not true. I like your mindset here so much more. Like, you could start slow and build it out and do your research, do your cold outreach, learn about your audience, figure things out on the side in your spare time outside of work while you're saving money, right? And you can do this in a risk-averse way. You don't have to do it the Shark Tank route, everybody.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there's like a lot of free resources that you can tackle as well. You have a friend that is pretty good at Instagram. Well, ask this friend to give you some lessons, or ask this person if they're okay to just manage your social media for a small amount of time. There's a lot of interns are ready to help as well. Interns are not experts. So you also have to understand that you're not going to hire an intern for free and then expect that person to do the job of a chief marketing officer. But I think also savings. Like, a lot of people are like, oh, how do you start a company? I need to get a loan. I need to get money from a VC. No, you can get a line of credit if you have a bank where you have enough savings. So you can talk to a bank and ask them about that. You can also, if you have enough savings, that's something you have to consider, rather than immediately giving your equity away and giving all your company away. That's what I see. A lot of founders are giving a lot of equity away, and when they sold their company, they don't have that much left anymore. So you have to be careful.
Yeah, that's another great warning. Thank you for that. There's lots of different ways to get funding versus giving away all of your equity. Yeah.
Crowdfunding is another one. What we call love money, asking your friends and family if you're surrounded by people that can afford it.
Love money. I've never heard that expression. That's so cute.
So if you're surrounded by people that have the means to write you checks, then go for it. Sometimes they're willing to do that.
That's so true. I wonder, are you an angel investor by any means, or have you ever done that, or do you see that in your world at all?
Yeah, I do see a lot of people starting angel investing. I'm a limited partner in a VC fund, so it's a little bit of a different approach. I basically sign a big check to a VC, and another general partner of that VC is going to allocate the capital of me and other limited partners over the next 3 years through small check sizes for pre-seed and seed companies that are focusing on building community-led companies.
How cool. How on brand for you. I love that.
Actually, the GP found me on Twitter. So social media work. And she saw I was really involved in the community building aspect. And she sent me her essay. This called Elephants Not Unicorns. It's a really good one. And I knew her reputation. She has like a proven track record of angel investing herself before starting a VC fund. And I was really aligned with the idea. But again, angel investing is not a game. It's not, I might lose all my money, and I hope I won't. But that's part of the risk. So angel investing, just starting a company also can be really rewarding in a sense that you can support companies and give them fundings that are needed for them to hire or develop the product. But you can also lose all that money. So my advice would be to look at angel investor groups. Like, a lot of angel investor groups out there where you can educate yourself. Golden Seeds is a really good one. The check sizes
Golden Seeds?
Yes.
Cool.
The check sizes can be high or low depending on the angel investor groups. And then there are some tools online like AngelList or Sidecar where you can invest, I think as little as $500 or $1,000 sometimes into companies.
Very cool. Oh,
So
I
there's a
love
lot.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You need to be an accredited investor. So you need to have a certain amount of assets or make a certain salary per year. So you have to look into that as well. But again, there's a lot of resources online. AngelList has a lot of resources online to help you understand all this angel investing world. I also interviewed a woman that wrote a book. Her book is called Do Good While Doing Well. And she's writing about angel investing. So there are good resources out there.
Cool. Is that book published or it's being written now?
It's published. Yeah.
Cool.
I did the book launch for her
How cool.
just last week, actually. Yeah.
Oh, if you can send me the link, girl, I can put the link in show notes for everybody. That sounds really cool. Because that's a whole nother side of this for us to look into. Because yes, we can start a business, but there's another side is being the investor to these businesses and helping founders, women founders or other, but just getting involved in that. And it's also a whole nother community, a whole nother layer there. So that's fascinating.
Absolutely.
I need to learn a lot more about that. I am the worst at investing and building financial security. Help me if anybody out there has advice. I'm going to read this book.
That's great.
Was another, you mentioned Elephants Not Unicorns. Was that a book as well?
It's an essay online. So it's like a blog post.
Cool. I'm going to link that in show notes too. Great advice. Thank you so much. So everyone, you could see she's a natural connector, people connector, asset connector, resource connector. She's someone you definitely want to connect with. If I'm going to ask you one more question, but before I do, if anybody wants to connect with you, is LinkedIn the best way to do so and to reach out?
Yes, LinkedIn is the best way. I also write a newsletter called lacremdelastem.substack.com. So I share all my thoughts around entrepreneurship, inspiring women's stories. I share about the events I'm organizing in New York City as well, and also community building thoughts. So a little bit of a mix of who I am. And I'm sending it like once or twice a month, not too often because I don't want to become a spam. And I know we all have a lot of newsletters, so I don't want to be one of those that you see too often.
Yeah. I love that. I'll also link that in show notes for easy access for everyone. That's amazing. There's so much advice here, and I can only imagine the advice that's also in the newsletter. So sign up for that, everyone. One last question. If you could go back 10, 12 years, when you're first starting out in your internships, what would you tell your younger self, knowing everything that you know now?
Yeah, I would tell myself, just go for it and trust the process. I think that's the big lesson learned. Like, you have to start somewhere, so just do it.
Yes. You learn something from every step along the way, right?
Exactly.
Perfect. Marion, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us. We can see, again, the natural connections that you build even in this one-to-one conversation with listeners. So thank you for sharing everything. I have a lot of things to look up. I'm definitely going to read Do Good While Doing. That sounds perfect. So thank you. And thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much. That was a real pleasure to have this discussion with you.
Yay, everybody. If you like the show, connect with Marion on LinkedIn, send us messages, tell us what you liked or any questions you have, and definitely share the episode with a friend, write, review, link, share. It helps us get in front of more people and grow as a show. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Marion. Thank you, everyone, for listening. See you next time.
Bye.